If there's one thing I learned about doing a 2-hour fishing video and going out fishing in real life, is that there's a lot out there from the bad to the amazing. There's something about fishing both virtually and in real life that gives a nice sense of wonder and bliss. I realized just how relaxing and helpful fishing can be just being out there. I really felt no stress of everyday life. All I could think of is fish, 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 and catch and release. That's why in today's video we're going to be covering a fishing game I didn't mention because I felt this needed its own video. So let's toss our bobber and see what bites, because today we're covering the game known as Mysteries Under Lake Ophelia. If there's one big thing that a lot of good fishing games have that they all share, it's the atmosphere of the world you're in. Lake Ophelia hits that spot as birds can be heard chirping away, the soft sounds of your shoes hitting the grass creating this nice crunch to it. This may just be a me thing, but I really love when games have nice footstep sounds. I think Ocarina of Time has some of my favorite sounds, especially with how dynamic it can be. As I said before in the previous video where I talked about his game Fatum Betulla, this game also feels like I'm just playing Ocarina of Time and I'm at the fishing pond in that game. You could tell me that this was an unused fishing map that was ported over to the PS1 for Ocarina of Time, and I would have personally believed you just from how high quality Bryce made everything here. There's also only one song in the game that will play throughout the random times, and something about it gives this peaceful but very alone feeling. As if trying to move past a hardship while knowing things will get better someday, but till then, you're kind of just stuck here. At least what I gathered from it. I really like when you throw your bobber underwater, it makes the music and sounds around you get all muffled. It's something the Donkey Kong games are known to do a lot, and it's amazing. But the only issue I really do have with this is sometimes you'll be really deep underwater and you'll still be hearing birds, and I don't think that's how that's supposed to be. Unless we're hearing the sounds from the actual player and not the bobber itself. That's kind of the only real nitpick I have for this type of thing though. Speaking of, let's cover the actual main mechanic of the game, the fishing. The game controls just like another game I tackled called The River King, where you throw your bobber out and then pull it in when the fish is tired, but don't pull in when the fish is moving or the line will break. You may also remember that I hated the controls for this in River King, and while I'm still not the biggest fan of this method of fishing, as it's up to RNG if the fish will stop moving or not, and can cause long-winded fish encounters, I do think this is the best example of these types of controls, mostly due to the feedback you get at all times. Unlike in River King, I had no idea what was even happening here when I would try to reel in, and the fish would freak out and then steal my hook. Here, the rod will make a rubber band stretching sound and it will increase in pitch, showing you the line is about to break, giving a nice feedback loop. I knew instantly what I was doing when this happened and learned the controls quite quickly. Again, I'm still not a fan of these types of fishing controls, but at least the game does it right, and it sure didn't stop me from playing this game for a long time. You can also still try to reel lightly during this, so you're not just doing nothing if the fish is swimming back, so you do have some control over the pace. It's just not that much. Seeing the nice variety of fishes is great though, and I even learned about some fishes I didn't even know existed, and it's these guys with the tumor looking things on their heads. Overall, every fish looks nice and I can really tell what they're supposed to be easily just from looking at them. Which really shows Bryce had a lot of care put into the texture work, since the less polys you have, the more the art direction has to carry with what these models are supposed to be. It's why with a lot of old games you would see the artwork of the characters never really match the model inside the game because of those limitations. The only issue I do have is with the scallops you can catch when it comes to recognizing what can be caught and what can't be. So I didn't realize you could grab these since they look more like background objects in the world. I think if the scallops had little bits of animation of them opening up slowly or just some type of movement to them, it would have helped me have a better indication that these can be caught. Now it's time to talk about the whole map that you could explore. This place feels quite large with a few different areas to see, with my favorite being this cave area with the water caustics on the ceiling. When it's night, the whole area is lit with this welcoming blue hue to everything. Then there's this small tree area where you can catch little goldfishes, and I think they're cute. If you go out and explore enough, you can come across new lures that are hidden in the water that either give you buffs to your length of the rod line, or they help make fish want to bite your bobber more. These are interesting to find and can be quite hidden, so going for these can make the world sort of feel like a small collectathon. There's even a reference to Fatum Betulla with this cat head lore, known as the beast head lore in the game. For a tip, go to this stump here to get it, as this will make early fishing in the game way faster and easier. If you don't feel like looking around for lures, you can always go out and catch fish and then take it back to this guy to sell. This guy just kind of shows up with no real explanation while he spouts very vague stuff whenever you talk with him. I think he's cool, but maybe someone will find him weird. He sells lures and even upgraded versions of the rods. If you want my honest advice, upgrade the rod as soon as possible, because it will save you a lot of headache in the later parts of the game, because you're going to end up being like me if you don't. I literally had one of the best lures, but no way to catch anything that gives an insane amount of money. So I was basically just struggle grinding the whole entire time because I did this to myself, so it's not the game's fault. You can also use the fishes to make dishes that can give you stat boosts, but because you need to sell fish for money, I did this once and then I never messed with it after because it basically just hindered grinding for me. For the most part, you can catch the fish without ever needing to ever use these, so I don't think they're really worth it, but maybe you'll find some use to it. What's cool is you even have your own version of the Pokédex in this game where you can track all the fishes you caught, as there's over 32 fishes to find, with some only spawning randomly, so you will need to look out to find them. The game also has text that appears for catching fishes, with some of these being funny or cute. Reminds me a lot of Animal Crossing when you catch something. You will need to get new lures and stronger rods to start getting the bigger fishes that lie deeper in the lake, and this lake is massive. It's to the point that it takes a little to see whatever's down below, giving a weird sense of tension at first the deeper your bobber goes. Once you fully upgrade everything, this is when you can buy the final lure, the Sunken Maiden. Now the question arises, as you may not be sure what to do at first with the new rod, but if you're paying attention, there's a giant hole in the deepest part of the lake. At night, a green light will emit from it, showing you where to aim at. Once you throw your bobber out to it, the descent begins. You see the bobber slowly moving down as a humming can be heard at the entrance, till you reach a wide open area of vast blue with what looks like an electric tower. You keep letting your bobber fall deeper into the abyss, till a loud sound happens, and then So I think it's safe to say this ending has a mixed reputation on those who played it.
That ending, a couple people, not including myself as in, have made like complaints about it, but a couple people, including myself, have voiced that we didn't really like the ending. I didn't like the ending.
That was it? Oh no! I did not just spend 6 fucking hours for that to be the only horror thing in this fucking game. Sorry, that and scare and Super Happy Days Scarecrow by
I personally like how trippy and strange the ending is, but I also agree that this ending comes out of nowhere. Now, I want to say regarding Bryce's previous works on Fatum Betulla and then this, I feel people just kind of slapped the horror tag on Steam because of his previous game Fatum Betulla, even though neither of these games are horror per se. From looking into Bryce's work, I can really tell he loves the weird and abstract parts of horror, and while these are very niche fears, this is the style he seems to enjoy making. Again, I said this in the last video, but stuff like LSD Germ Emulator and Yuminiki, while these games can be creepy at times and have weird imagery, I wouldn't say these are horror titles. Same goes for Lake Ophelia. Sadly, because of that tag and the fact the advertising has the VHS look to it, it probably came off as a haunted or old VHS horror game. Even I myself thought it was going to be that when I went into it. But yeah, this game isn't scary, and I feel trying to come at it like it's supposed to be a scary horror game is gonna ruin your experience. This game tackles some fears like the fear of deep water or man-made objects in deep water, but like how Majora's Mask tackles the fear of death and learning to let go and be okay with dying, it doesn't make it a horror game, it's just dark. I saw many reviews saying how the ending felt like it was there for shock value with no real meaning and nothing deep was there at all. I personally knew that wasn't the case, as there had to be something deeper behind it, just knowing how Bryce does his stuff. He doesn't like to explain stuff as well as I guess he should, because then you get people like this who have no idea what's even happening. So I messaged him to find out more in the ending, and I got some answers to the ending and also some cut content from the game. Bryce said that the ending to Lake Ophelia came from a very real emotional place. He did mention that he didn't want to go into too much detail about the intended metaphor or what the ending was supposed to be, since he thinks the conversations that these types of games bring is more interesting. He mentioned the game was born out of his own climate anxiety and the feeling to understand a great tragedy. With having that context and then seeing the ending scene and how it has the boy being dragged into what seems to be a dark hole, to then have a shot of the planet either being destroyed by exploding or it's being heated to the point nothing could exist on it, it makes a lot more sense. Which would go with the words of being anxious about the climate that he mentioned. Look, I like the ending, and even with the context, I feel now it hits harder, but nothing prepares us for this ending to ever happen, and no hints or things in the game would even hint to any of the stuff he mentioned are shown. Which is why I said in the previous video, the ending just kind of comes out of nowhere. It makes no sense at all, because nothing built up to this ending. It's why I feel like Bryce's message that he probably wanted to push here kind of went over his head for this one. In all honesty, that's just kind of how I'm seeing it. This is also not me saying it doesn't make sense to have this ending because the game wasn't scary, so why end with a scary ending? It makes no sense to end it this way because the game before never set anything up to build up to this, like I said. He did go into detail how the game burned him out, so a whole segment was cut out of the game, which was a short walkable surreal part of the game before the ending. I feel this could have maybe tied the game's ending more to the stuff before. He also mentioned that the bottom of the lake was supposed to have more mutated fishes, but those were cut, and I really wish he didn't because that could have been a good foreshadowing how the world's climate here is messed up, and even the fishes are mutating now from the effects, and this is why the character has a fear of the end since he knows it will someday come, and now there's nothing he can do as the effects seem irreversible now. I do think if more time was taken to build up to this ending to reflect what he said, this would have probably been way more enjoyable to some, but as it stands, it's a weird trippy ending that seemed to have a lot of work put into it with no real payoff. I do like though the ending cutscene that we're seeing is from a real VHS tape since he got all the cutscenes converted to VHS and used recordings from those. But after all those flaws, what are we left with? Well, it's a very good fishing game with an out-of-place ending. Maybe one day I do hope Bryce can come back to this and add the missing segments and the mutated fish and just flesh out more of what this was supposed to be while still keeping it a mystery. But till then, the game has a good and fun journey, just the destination isn't what we were expecting. I still like the ending, but again, I'm not going to sit here and say that it comes with like an actual good payoff. It just doesn't, I'm sorry. I'm still very excited to see what else comes from Bryce, and from what he's shown, he's working on this chibi third-person action shooter, and while visually seems to be a huge change from his previous stuff, I do hope it turns out great. But with that being said, thanks for watching guys, and thank you Bryce for the interview. I expect a giant isopod character soon in one of your games. Please. Also, the interview questions will be in the description if you want to see the whole interview we did. It's like 9 questions long. It's not that long.